Hello, hello, everybody. I am Elizabeth. This is another brand new episode of Voices for a New Humanity. I've been doing these conversations, and they are really explorations. They really are conversations. I bring people on, and we talk about what's coming and what already is in this thing that I'm calling new humanity. And for me, it's a birth. It's a quantum leap in consciousness. It's a whole new place of being. And what we are experiencing in new humanity now is not the same as what we're experiencing in the world right now today. We're recording this just sort of in the midst of all the riots and the protests after the events of last week, the murders, and oh my goodness, all of that. But in new humanity, what we find is a spaciousness, we find oneness, we find allness, we find kindness and compassion, and we find this beautiful world. And my guest, I'm going to introduce her. We know that we are on the cusp, we are moving into humanity. And part of what we're seeing in the world is the uprising, the wobbling, the breakdowns, so we can have breakthroughs. So that's what I usually say, but I want to take a moment now to introduce to you my guest for today, Rev Joanne Angel BarryColon. She also goes by Jab. And so I'm so glad you're joining me today. From New York,
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here. I'm very excited to be here, and I'm very happy to share all that we're going to share today. So yeah.
I know. So I just said I'm going to start that. Yep, there we go. Okay, so Joanne also, I'm going to say this now so we don't forget it later. It's called Healing Within. And will you just speak just a brief moment about that, and then we'll dive into the conversation we want to be having here.
Sure. And again, the show's Joanne's Healing Within. And the whole purpose of the show is to bring like-minded folks on to share their journey and story of how they are connected to whatever their modality is. And that modality could be a healing modality, entrepreneurship, author, publisher, or just them living in their purpose. And I brought the show together so I can inspire other people who may not realize that they have an actual purpose and what that purpose is, so they too can get inspired to step into that journey and begin their journey and their healing process. Because I truly believe that whatever our niche is what we're meant to do, so we can step into our purpose, if that makes sense.
It makes complete sense to me. And it's a perfect segue, right, to really what we're talking about today. So as we're moving, as we're birthing, as we're realizing this new humanity, it comes for us when we're aligned. It's both and. When we're aligned with that purpose, when we're being that purpose. But it's a place of being that then we bring our doing. So in this time, we started these interviews, these conversations as we entered into the pandemic. So in this time, in this birth, Joanne, how is that impacting you directly and personally in the biggest way?
That's a big question. And
yeah.
in reference to impacting me professionally, the impact is just about, yes, some of my clients have chosen that they cannot do Zoom. They're not comfortable on Zoom to continue their work, because I do see my clients via Zoom. And some of them, I do offer my services still on site, as my facility is a personal training facility. So I do work one-on-one. I've always worked one-on-one. So yeah, I've taken a I guess, a position where some of my clients have chosen not to continue during this time. And in the same realm, I've gotten a lot of new clients. Interesting enough, the new clients coming in are clients coming in for the chakra balance Reiki treatments, where I'm guessing that they're feeling that pull, that they need something to help them shift, so they can clear some energy, so they can move into their purpose. And so I'm being impacted in that way. And then personally, I don't really feel like I'm being impacted personally at all, because again, my thought process prior to the COVID-19 was always about wanting to eventually go to the point where I was doing or serving my clients on site and also remotely. So I think the COVID-19 just sort of helped me get there a little sooner than I was anticipating on getting. Exactly. It took me. As I always say, this is my firm belief, is when the universe wants you to do something, if you're not doing it on your own will, the universe is going to take you and bring you there.
Yes.
So you can do it on your own will, or you can have the universe take you. So it really depends on which way you want to go about it. And, you know, I usually, for most part, do things on my own will and say, okay, this is what I'm going to do it. But I guess I wasn't moving quickly enough for the universe, where the universe is like, no, we got to get you on high speed and get you there.
I think the whole universe sped up. I think the quantum, the exponential, the quickness, however that happened, I think it happened for so many of us. It's like, whoa, here we go.
Oh yeah. Like, I truly believe as we moved into 2020, just to give a little like insight on numerology, because I actually do that as well. This year collectively is what's called a 4 energy year, which means it's a frequency of 4. In numerology, that's all about building a new foundation, finding the harmony and balance, and stabilizing ourselves, but working really hard to get it. And the key word in that is really about building the new foundation. In order to build a new foundation, you literally have to break open the old foundation. You got to crack it up and let it go, so you can rebuild a new foundation. And I think literally for every one of us, we are in this collective and also in this personal energy of rebuilding our foundation. And it may not have gone the way we thought, because again, as you know, I know, we are all spiritual beings having a human experience. And sometimes through the human experience, our ego gets a little caught up. And what's that?
Oh yeah, once in a while, just a little.
Just a little bit. And because of the ego getting caught up, we tend to think as humans, well, this is better for me, where in reality, it may not match anymore. And in addition to having that new foundation, we also moved into a new decade.
Right.
So there's a lot of new going on this year. And as humans, we also have to have the rebirth of raising our vibration to match the newness of what's really being called for us to do. And if we're at a lower frequency where we were, we need to raise the frequency to match where we need to go. And that takes the process of being still, going inward, which is what we've been instructed to do. Stay inside and stay quiet without mask on.
Right.
There's a purpose for it.
Yeah, it's really, you can see it in so many different layers, but going back to the new foundation, that's what I've been saying all along too. And that whole breaking down, that whole wobble, we're so set up. I get so excited about the possibilities and the potentialities, and really what I'm seeing as I sort of play in my quantum world with my consciousness buddies, because there will be an uprising of new everything, new healthcare, new economics, new finances, new government, new all that. And then that kind of leads me, it's like, you know, we're recording on I don't even know what day it is, but just after, we're in the midst of all those riots and protests, and I think that is a whole nother uprising, a whole nother wobble where we, especially as white women, and
yes,
right, we get to say no more.
Yes,
for all humanity, for all humanity.
Exactly. And it's interesting that you mentioned about not knowing the date. as you said that, I thought in my head, I'm like, okay, today's 6/1. And again, going back to numerology just for a moment, when we think about that date, that 6 energy is all about the healing. So this month, particularly in June, that's what we're actually apt to do, is heal. And the 1 energy that we're in today is about the new beginning. This is a new chapter, a new door opening for us. Now we take those 2 numbers and bring it together, we get a 7. And that 7 in numerology is all about the analytical, the evaluator, the let's go within. Let's sit in quiet and meditate, and really meditate about what it is we need to heal and how we can step into the space of becoming more independent and more of a leader for ourselves and what it is we want to be a leader of.
Mm-hmm.
And then you take the collective energy of that 4 with the 7. What does that put us at? 11? 7, 8, 9, 10, yeah, 11.
Master number.
Is a master number. So on this particular day, it's no longer about the human self. It's about what serves us on a higher level. And how can we heal individually? And how can we heal collectively on a higher level? So it is really about pulling out the ego. I mean, we do need the ego to some degree, but not to the degree that most of us use it.
Right.
And if we can really step into that space of recognizing, like, what's happening isn't happening to us, it's happening for us.
For us.
And that's a big thing.
That's a huge thing. That's a huge thing.
For us.
Now, one of the places, one of the ways that I've been playing, and we have not talked about this, you and I specifically, but it's like we are raising our elevation, our energy, our vibration, our frequency at such a level. And one of the ways I've been working with my clients and students and my peeps, my people, is to imagine that everything we've seen is behind this wall, and all we can see is just to the edge of the wall, right? So we're like peek over at what's possible. And like when we peek over, we're like raising up. And then what we're seeing there, and I like to do a process where we do that 3 times so we don't really get stuck there, but it's like raising our perspective, but we're raising our vibration, our frequency, and our consciousness at the same time. And what you're saying, numerology and June, and we know everything that we've gone through in the last few months as a world is giving us opportunities to go, wow, what do we really want to co-create? Because there's a whole level of co-creation, and you spoke to this too, not exactly in the same words. Who do we want to be? What do we want to see? And there's the innovation and the creativity and the collaboration is just popping.
Yes. And I love your vision in reference to, like, being able to see over the wall. Because it's interesting, because when you were saying that, what I was actually hearing and seeing, going back to the mask wearing.
Yeah.
When we think about it, it's like, yes, right now we're being asked to stay quiet because of the mask. But we're also being asked to see and hear very differently, because we're not so quick to speak. And I know as humans, we always want to say something. We always want to, like, but if we're being asked to stay quiet for now and utilize your eyes, what are you actually seeing? On a deeper note, what are you really seeing? And then what are you really hearing? And when we sit in silence, what are you really hearing when you sit in silence? What are you really
hearing? Yeah.
Yeah. Which I think is the bigger point here, is like sitting in that silence. What are you really hearing? What insights are you gaining? Where are you getting your insights from? Are you listening to the external of all the people out there, or are you really going in and taking guidance from your spirit guide, your higher power?
Right. And I talk about that, like dropping beneath the noise, right? The noise of consciousness, the noise of the subconscious, the noise of the internet, and the because you can, I've taught meditation for 37 years now, and in many different modalities, right? But people have a tendency to get silent, and then they hear their own, they don't make that direct connect, or they stop in one of the mid levels, the psychic level, or the, whatever, some of the other levels. And it's like, let's go direct connect. What can you really hear?
Mm-hmm.
look over the wall, we're seeing too. What can you really see? What if anything were possible? What would that look like? What would you love?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So, Joanne, what if that were really possible? What would you love to see in the future, but now? Like, what would you love to see as an outcome of all of this time that we're in?
What I would love to see in the outcome of what we are in right now going forward is really seeing everybody get into that space where they can begin to recognize that there is a different version of who they are and see themselves as that higher version, so they can see themselves healing and being the healer and living in that space that we're all in this together and we're all here to help each other become the better version of who we are, and whatever that might be. Because right now, yes, we're both the better version of who we are today, but then we're going to be a better version of who we are next week and the week to come. And by all of us being in that same energy space, it helps to lift us all up to being in the purpose that we need to be in, and to having the best life that each and every one of us are birthed to have, without having all the separation. Is what I really see. Is just all of us being in this unity together and helping each and every one of us get to where we need to go and being the best version of who we are.
You know what I love so much about these conversations and all of them that I'm having is virtually everybody has a similar vision. And you speak at your words, your language is a little bit different than mine, but it's like, yes. And when we do that, division disappears and competition disappears and fear disappears. It like dismantles. And we know, each and every person on this planet, that we are worthy and whole and complete and equal and loved.
Yes.
Loved. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. And I think that's what we really need to hold that energy for, is letting everybody know that everybody is loved. Everybody. Loved unconditionally. It doesn't matter what your circumstances are. We love you unconditionally. We love ourselves unconditionally. And when we can step into that unconditional love, we let go of all the baggage, all the judgment, all the insecurities, you know, of what we think the other person is thinking about us, because it doesn't matter, because you're loved unconditionally. As I love myself unconditionally, I love you unconditionally.
Yeah. And the truth is, when you do that, you don't have to let go of the other stuff because it's not present.
Exactly. It's not there. Exactly.
Yeah. And then we have, right, new humanity now, which is love and kindness and compassion and connection and collaboration, all of those things.
Exactly. And it's not really challenging to have.
No.
It really isn't. It really is a matter of, it's right. It's literally right within us. We just have to open ourselves up to having it. That's all it is.
That sounds very simple. I appreciate so much you being here with us today. We'll put all of your links in the description to the YouTube so people can find you. And we also just want to say that in a few weeks, I will be a guest on your show. And how fun is that? We'll get to continue our conversation.
Exactly. I love having that connection where, you know, I get to be on the other side of the table, where I'm the actual, I guess, the interviewee, is it? Yes. Or the interviewee, and then we're going to be the other way around. So yeah, I think it's awesome to be able to have that share and doing both sides of the world.
Yes. It's very, very fun. So I'm Eliza Bloom Robinson. This is Reverend Joanne. And we together are the voices for a new humanity. So glad that you were here with us today, and stay tuned for another episode coming up real soon. Thanks everyone for watching. We love your comments. Please let us know what you think of this conversation. And we'll see you again real soon. Bye.
Bye.